Srimad Bhagavatam 11.8.13 Padapi yuvatim bhiksur sprsed daravim api sprsan kariva badhyeta karinya anga-sangatah. The Avadut Brahmana is instructing Maharaj Yadu and is telling what he has learned from various gurus. So here he speaks about what one can learn from an elephant. Padapi yuvatim bhiksur. Bhikshu, the renunciate, even with one's feet. Padapi na sprsed daravim api. Yuvatim. Yuvati is a young woman. One should not touch even with one's foot, and one should not touch even daravim, even a wooden doll of a young woman. Sprsan kariva badhyeta. And how touch can entangle, he's explaining with the example from nature of an elephant. Sprsan, by touch, kariva badhyeta, kariva. This is the elephant becomes bound, badhyeta. Karinya anga-sangatah. Karinya is a she-elephant. By contact with her body. So now elephant is a very powerful animal. And when the elephant becomes furious, it can just, when its trunk, toss a human being far away. With its tusk, it can gore a human being to death. Under its feet, it can crush a human being to death. So it's difficult to catch an elephant, and especially in the past when now poachers may have guns with which to shoot or put a elephant to sleep. But in the past, although there were celestial astras, those were primarily with kshatriyas. But hunters, those who wanted to trap elephants for whatever purposes, they usually would not have this kind of astras. So they would use the most sophisticated astra, in one sense, the most common and yet the most dangerous astra. And that is the astra of sexual attraction. So they would send a she-elephant close to a he-elephant. And when the she-elephant would just go and touch the he-elephant. Now both the he and she-elephant are so giant, and we may not even see the giant proportions. We may not think of the elephants in sensual terms. But that touch would sensually inflame the he-elephant. The she-elephant would be trained to just touch the elephant and then go away. And start running. And the he-elephant would get maddened by that touch and wanting more of the touch. Wanting to, after having got a whiff of sensual gratification, wanting it full. So, wanting to catch the she-elephant, would run after the she-elephant. And the she-elephant would know, would be trained in such a way, it would know that there is a ditch where the elephant will fall. And because she would know, she would bypass that ditch. And the he-elephant would fall in the blind anxiety to somehow reach the she-elephant, would charge and fall right into the ditch. And would get caught. So far from catching the he-elephant would still get caught. Now, so karinya anga-sangatah, for the desire of the karinya, of the she-elephant's anga-sangatah, touch of her body, sprsan kariva badhyeta, the touch will cause bondage. Now, this is the example of nature. And 2 points are made over here which underscore the extreme gravity of the principle being taught. Normally, touching with the leg is not considered to be a particularly sensual organ, especially the foot. It's something which is unimportant, we touch it with our foot and then we push it away or something like that. So, but even touching with the foot, that means it's a distant touch. Something which we want to touch, we may touch with our hands and lift it up and cherish it carefully. But something with a leg, that is almost like a negligent touch. So even such a negligent touch should be avoided. and even such a negligent touch with a woman, with especially a young woman, yuvati. It is not just three, but a young woman it is mentioned over here. So, sprsed daravim api. Even with a wooden image of a young woman, one should not touch. Now, actually, today's media is such that man and woman touching each other are constantly being depicted and glamorized, and often there are sensually titillating sounds and sighs and oohs and ahs, which all glamorize the contact of the male and the female, the male and the female bodies. So hundreds and thousands of movies depict this, and hundreds and thousands of novels depict this, whether it is by visual or textual, that contact is so much glamorized. And further, we live in a society where there is inevitably a lot of mixing among the genders in the workplace and other while moving around, commuting. So this may seem not only impractical but also fanatical. But the point here is that if we are going to keep impracticality as the criteria, then the renunciate's life itself may seem impractical. Now, isn't it? Isn't the sexual drive the natural drive? So, and that is the drive which ensures that the humanity perpetuates. So, to give up sexual drive itself is impractical. But the point here is that what is practical and what is not practical depends on what is one's definition of success. A chess player, sometimes a person becomes a chess champion. That person, right from the early childhood, from the age of 3 or 4 or 5, just focuses on spending hours and hours and hours in front of the chessboard, not doing most of the things that children do. And if we tell that person that, for a child, sitting in front of a chessboard like that is for hours and hours is not natural. But then the parents, if they're determined, will say, but it is not natural that everyone becomes a chess champion. We want our child to become a chess champion. And later on, say the child becomes a chess champion and the child remembers, this is what I used to do. So to some extent, if we want to achieve anything glorious, we have to go beyond the society's conceptions of what is natural, and to some extent every great success requires some amount of fanaticism. So without being fanatically focused, now fanatical, the word has a very jarringly negative connotation in terms of intolerance towards others. So for example, one religion wants to destroy another religion. But we are not talking about fanaticism in that terms. We are talking about fanaticism in terms of fanatical focus. So success requires success in any laudable success in any field requires a fanatical focus. And similarly, in spiritual life, where we are trying to focus our consciousness on Krishna, there at that time we require a fanatical focus on Krishna. And that fanatical focus means we have to rigidly minimize distractions. Now, how we may be able to apply this in today's situation, that will vary according to time, place, circumstance. But rather than rejecting this principle as impractical or fanatical, rejecting this point, we have to look at the underlying purpose and ensure that we also understand and internalize that purpose according to our time, place, circumstance. Few things can distract the human mind as much as the fantasies of sexual titillation. And with the whole technological facilities opening up a whole new universe of more and more glamorized and more fantasized ways of enjoyment, it's very difficult to stay sexually sober, to maintain one's basic level of sense control also. But by remembering that such a principle that what the renunciates in the past were expected was this level. So we can recognize that whatever sexual boundaries we need to maintain for protecting ourselves, even if they are considered to be fanatical by people in society, we shouldn't be embarrassed about it. We don't have to be proud or arrogant about what we are doing, but we need to protect our devotion, and we need to protect the spiritual orientation of our consciousness. And to the extent we minimize distractions by recognizing the destructiveness of those distractions, to that extent we will be able to absorb ourselves in higher happiness. And and rather than seeing this as a sign of fanaticism, we will see that actually how this is a sign of positive valuing of the treasure of bhakti. That remembrance of Krishna is so joyful that just as if somebody has a very joyful thing, that person doesn't a very very precious thing, that person will take all possible precautions to ensure that the thing is not lost. So similarly, the orientation of our consciousness towards Krishna is so joyful and it's so precious that we want to take whatever precautions are possible to ensure that it is not lost. And that valuing of the transcendent is the essential principle underlying this strong cautioning against the sexual distractions. Thank you.